This is a paid program and is provided for informational purposes only.
My friends, we all hope we'll never need the services of an attorney. Sometimes, of course, we don't have a choice. This is Dennis Prager here to tell you about William J. Wolfe, attorney at law. William J. Wolfe's practice is limited to injury and wrongful death claims, and although he's been in practice for over 31 years, he is not part of some huge impersonal law firm. To the contrary, when you call William J. Wolfe, that's who you get. This means you also get very personal service. Over the years, William J. Wolfe has successfully taken on many cases that other lawyers have turned down. Now you get the benefit of all that experience. There is absolutely no charge for initial consultation. As I said, we all hope we never need an injury attorney, but if you do, you want one with a lot of experience and one who will handle your case personally. That would be William J. Wolfe, offices at 1121 East Missouri. Hours to fit your schedule. His number, 602-279-1914, 602-279-1914, outside the Phoenix metro area, 1-800-WOLF-LAW.
Start this year right with a well-trusted accounting firm here in the Valley, Nelson & Robles PC, certified public accountants in the Valley since 1977. Nelson & Robles PC specialize in monthly accounting and tax preparations for all types of businesses, as well as individuals, trusts, and estates. If you have an accounting or tax need, then call Nelson & Robles PC today at 602-944-4242. That's Nelson & Robles PC, a trusted Valley accounting firm since 1977. 602-944-4242. Call today.
Now on News Talk 960, The Patriot, KKNT. It's the Middle East Radio Forum. Your chance to talk about the turmoil in the Middle East. To call in live, dial anytime at 602-508-0960. That's 602-508-0960. Now your host for the Middle East Radio Forum, attorney William J. Wolfe.
Good afternoon. My name is William J. Wolfe. I'm the host of Middle East Radio Forum, heard every Sunday at noon here on News Talk 960 The Patriot. And you can listen anywhere in the world, as I often say, and you can listen to old shows on the archives of my website, MiddleEastRadioForum.org. That's MiddleEastRadioForum.org. So tell people anywhere in the world who might be interested in the Middle East about this show. If they have an internet connection, they can listen. The show is available 11 o'clock in the morning on the West Coast, noon here in the Phoenix area, which is 1 p.m. Chicago, 2 p.m. on the East Coast of the United States, 8 p.m. in most of Europe, and 9 p.m. in the Middle East. And I say Europe because we've been getting some emails from our servicemen in Germany, so I know they're listening. The local call-in number is 602-508-0960. We also have a toll-free number anywhere in North America, 1-888-960-9696. And if you're out of the country, call the 602 number, collect. We will accept your call. We always start the show with random thoughts, and then I'm going to get to my two guests, David Meir Levi and Devin Sper. There are 6 million Jews now in Israel. Does that number sound familiar? 6 million Jews in Israel. And we have an election now, Hamas, from a group that says that they are totally for the destruction of Israel. And not just that, they want the destruction of Jews anywhere in the world. They've already gotten Gaza, Judenrein, and the Christians are certainly leaving. I don't think there are any Christians left in the Gaza area. Does all of this sound familiar? There are 6 million Jews in Israel that are now facing annihilation by both Hamas and by, of course, the government of Iran that is seeking to acquire atomic weapons and the means to deliver them. Some people say they already have them. They have said they're going to use them. So I don't know if it's a coincidence, but right now there are 6 million Jews in Israel. Okay, I don't want to take up any more of my guest time because we're talking about the election and, of course, the aftermath of the Gaza withdrawal by Israel. I've got two guests. I have David Meir Levi. David, are you there?
I'm here. Hi.
Hi, thanks for being on the show again. David, I know you lecture in English, Spanish, and Hebrew.
Right.
You're a prolific writer for Front Page Magazine on issues relating to the Middle East, and you've been a wonderful guest on the show before. Thank you for being here again.
Well, thank you for those kind words.
And also I have Devin Sper with us in studio. He's lived in Israel for 10 years, was educated at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem, and served in the Israel Defense Forces. He is a senior fellow at the Center for Advanced Middle East Studies and author of a wonderful book, which I highly recommend, The Future of Israel, winner of the 2000, what's that, GLIP Award?
Glyph
Award. All right, welcome to you also, Devin.
Thank you, and nice to be here again with you, David.
All right, though, let's get right into it. Now, we're going to talk about the aftermath of the Gaza withdrawal, but I think it's inextricably intertwined with the recent election where Hamas was elected in a democratic process, of course, as was Hitler. Please do not forget that Hitler came to power in a democratic election. So just the fact that somebody is elected in a democratic way doesn't mean you have a good government. If the people that have elected him and the candidate are all calling for something horrible, such as what's happened with Hamas, the total destruction of Israel, and of course the killing of every Jew in the world, not a good thing. David, what's your take on the Hamas election?
Well, I think it's a very good thing. I'm very pleased with how the election has turned out.
Okay, and please explain why, because I do agree with you.
Sure. As a number of commentators have said over the last couple of days, the veil is off. The mask is gone. There is now no rational way, there's always irrational, but no rational way that European, American, whoever spokespersons can say, oh, if only Israel would do just the one more nice thing that's needed, if only they would do X, Y, Z. Hamas has been very blunt and upfront. It was not part of their platform in the election, but it has been for almost 20 years the outstanding piece of their covenant that they want, as you said before, the total destruction of Israel and the annihilation not just of Israel's Jews, but of all Jews throughout the world. So every vote for Hamas was a vote for war with Israel. So now we know where we stand.
Okay, and just to amplify what you're saying, Article 7 of the Hamas covenant says, the day of judgment will not come about until Muslims fight Jews and kill them. Then the Jews will hide behind rocks and trees, and the rocks and trees will cry out, "Oh, Muslim, there is a Jew hiding behind me. Come and kill him."
Yes.
Okay, let me ask Devin a question here. Devin, the media talks about how the U.S. and the Israeli leadership were surprised by the Hamas victory. Why would that have been?
They're surprised because for 30 years they've been mired in a deep self-delusion, which they call peace process, that was never based on the world as it is, but based on the world as they think it should be. And the election of Hamas is the absurd, logical conclusion of this absurd 30-year process. And the fact that neither the United States government nor Israel predicted it is an indication of just how delusional they were and are. I saw that the Israeli government had a cabinet meeting the day before the election on which they debated possible scenarios, and they did not debate the possibility that Hamas was going to win. In other words, they refused to face reality. Now, we rewarded Palestinian terrorists, the PLO, by handing Arafat power in a state, and it shouldn't really surprise us that other terrorist organizations like Hamas are going to seek similar rewards and use similar methods. And then we rewarded Hamas by unilaterally withdrawing from Gaza for no peace in return. And it shouldn't surprise us that the Palestinian people see this as a victory for Hamas and will now try to implement the same thing in the West Bank and elsewhere.
Okay, David, I'm going to ask you to comment on what Devin said, but in your comment, I'd like you to include the fact that the Palestinians who were in power, the Palestinian Authority, was basically had the same program to destroy Israel. It's just that they had a different face. To the Arab press, to the Arab world, they said, yes, we're going to destroy Israel, kill the Jews. But to the Western press, they said, we want peace, we want to have a peace process. And, of course, the Americans, the Europeans, they went forward with blinders saying, yes, there is a peace process. Tell us what's been going on here.
Okay. Well, first off, I think most of what our other guest said is exactly correct. Certainly the Western countries and Europe is beyond comment, but America also is insisted on presenting to the world what is in essence the world the way they wish it were, as opposed to the world the way it is. Now, why they did that, I don't think is an issue of delusional, but that's a different question. However, I do want to give the Israeli government a little more credit because not even Hamas expected the win that they got. They expected, based upon their own presentations, that they'd come off with some significant plurality. They would be able to be the opposition while Fatah and the PLO, which are the main components of the Palestinian Authority up until the election, would you make a coalition with some smaller groups, and then they'd have to run the government and handle the deficit and deal with all kinds of problematic things. And Hamas could push its own agendas inside the government with great legitimacy and therefore increase strength.
David, let me interrupt you for a second. Are you saying that Hamas did not want to win this election?
They did not expect to win this
election.
election.
Well, that's not my question, though. Did they not want to win it?
I don't know what they wanted or didn't want to do.
Okay.
I can't answer that. I have no information. So I can speculate, but I don't like to speculate. The main thing is they were surprised. They got more than they thought. So they are now busy trying to handle what they're going to do. And from one intelligence source that I have, one of the things they want to do, which they haven't announced yet, but they probably will very soon, is give most of the civil positions to Fatah and keep for themselves the ones that are most important to their agenda, which are the security positions. In other words, handling security forces, handling money, handling foreign policy. Those are the things. Those are the positions that they want, and this is completely consistent with their basic agenda, which is in their covenant, which you correctly quoted. Now, let me add just one quick thing in parentheses here. It's kind of comical in a way, but in addition to being against Israel and against Jews everywhere, the Hamas covenant also says very clearly that they are against the Freemasons and the Rotary clubs. It's in Article 17. So people who belong to Freemasons and Rotary clubs, you're in trouble.
Well, they're certainly against any type of a Christian also. Okay.
Yes.
David, you couldn't see it because you're not in studio, but Devin was shaking his head earlier when you were presenting. Devin, go ahead. What were you shaking your head about?
Well, I don't agree that. I think that it is clear that Hamas was interested in power. They made a decision some years ago to run for this election, and when someone runs for an election and fields candidates, they clearly do have an interest in power, and I see no evidence whatsoever to indicate that they were surprised. It's true that our leaders were surprised, but not all of us were, and I don't think Hamas was surprised by their victory. Anyone in touch with the Palestinian street knew that Fatah had not as much support as you might expect from what you read in the Western media.
Okay, David, let me ask you another question here. Some are saying that Hamas will moderate in power. Do you agree with that? And then I'm going to ask Devin the same question.
Okay. I haven't got a crystal ball, but as I know from my years as an educator, the absolutely most accurate statistical prediction of a child's 11th grade behavior is his 10th grade behavior. Same with people in politics. So if you look at, let's say, Hezbollah in Lebanon, did becoming part of the political scene moderate them? No, the exact opposite is happening. They are radicalizing Lebanese government. If you look at the PLO when it was allowed to come into the UN back in 1974, the argument was, well, let the PLO in, and there'll be observers, and then the political process will tame them. And the exact opposite happened. The PLO basically was the vanguard of Arab forces that hijacked the UN and turned it into an anti-Israel, anti-West playground for Arab propaganda. And we have the same thing with Arafat back in 1993. In fact, it was Peres who argued, much to his chagrin now, I'm sure, that once Arafat is the Rais, the head of the Palestinian Authority, he'll have to deal with political things, and this will moderate him. And of course, it didn't. He simply co-opted all the power that he got and used it for his terror war. So we haven't got a lot of good precedents in the Arab world for the political process taming, moderating, whatever, the terrorist. Now, we do have some in the non-Arab world, and that's where some people may be misled. For example...
Are you talking about the Muslim non-Arab world?
Well, the examples I gave with Hezbollah and Arafat and the PLO were all Arab. So I didn't talk about Muslim per se, I spoke about Arab.
No, I'm asking about the other examples, the non-Arabic examples.
Oh, the non-Arabic? No, those are in the non-Muslim and in the non-Arab world.
Okay.
The first example that comes to mind is Menachem Begin. He was the leader of what some people call a terrorist organization, certainly a paramilitary organization that used, in some cases, terror tactics. And he went into politics and became a fabulous leader who made peace. And then we have, at the opposite side of Europe, Ireland. The Sinn Féin was, by most accounts, a terrorist organization, and yet when after a process, which I'm not competent to comment on, the history is not part of my expertise, it became a political power, and in fact, it largely has given up terrorism and has become an effective political force. So sometimes it can happen and sometimes it can't, and what the difference is it Arabs versus Europeans? I don't know, but there is a difference, and whether or not it's going to happen with Hamas, given the past history, is not something that I would want to put money on.
Okay, David, I'm going to ask Devin the same question. We're going to come up on break, though, and I'll have to interrupt you. Some are saying that Hamas will moderate in power. What do you believe, Devin?
They will not moderate in power, and David is correct. There are examples one way and there are examples the other, and let me define to you the common denominator between them. People who are primarily interested in power will adjust their ideologies accordingly. People for whom power is a means to the end, in other words, their ideology is primary and power merely a tool to achieve it, do not adjust their power do not adjust their ideology in power. The Jews comforted each other when Hitler rose to power, saying that he would moderate in power. Hitler believed in something, he was a fanatic, and he not only did not moderate, he radicalized.
Okay, Devin, I've got to interrupt you. We are coming up on the first break of the day. You're listening to Middle East Radio Forum here on News Talk 960 The Patriot. My name is William Wolf. The show is available to you every Sunday at noon Arizona time. Of course, if you're listening on the internet anywhere else in the world, MiddleEastRadioForum.org. You need to adjust for your local time in relation to noon here in Arizona. For an example, it's 2 p.m. on the east coast of the United States and 9 p.m. in Israel. Again, Middle East Radio Forum is your ticket to listening to the show anywhere in the world and also to old shows on the archives. Please stay with us. We'll be right back with David, Meir, Levi, and Devin Sper.
If you're looking for a complete quality computer service company that is knowledgeable, reliable, professional, and fast, you need Ultimate Computer Concepts of Phoenix. We offer service and support for all of your computer needs, and we've been serving the Valley for over 10 years, specializing in computer systems and software, internet service, security, networking, and website hosting and development. Call 602-230-4747 or visit us online at uccinc.net.
As an attorney, I get to know who the experts are in every related field. That's how I came to know Dr. Roger Baker. Dr. Baker is a board-certified chiropractic physician who handles accident injuries. His modern office provides every form of up-to-date healing and pain-relieving therapy, including acupuncture for pain relief and digestion aid. Dr. Baker stays on top of what's new so that his patients have the latest advances in care. Take it from me, you're in the right hands with Dr. Roger Baker. That's Dr. Roger Baker, 602-249-4508. Jewish News of Greater Phoenix is your source for timely news and information about the Jewish community in the Valley and around the world. Our family-owned and operated weekly newspaper has been serving Valley readers for 57 years. To subscribe to Jewish News, call 602-870-9470 or visit jewishaz.com. That number again is 602-870-9470 or jewishaz.com.
Whenever I pass the corner of 7th Street in Maryland, it's hard to resist making a quick stop at the Maryland Deli and Mini Mart. If I need a cup of coffee, it's always fresh. If I'm in the mood for iced tea, they serve the best China Mist. If I'm hungry, they make the freshest deli sandwiches around with boar's head meats, of course. For a quick treat, they've got Ben & Jerry's ice cream. Need gas? Use your Shell card or their ATM. Open 7 days a week from 5 to 11. The place is always clean and attractive. Seems like there are mini marts on every corner, but there's only one Maryland Deli and Mini Mart, corner of 7th Street in Maryland.
Tucked away at the northeast corner of 7th Street in Missouri is that kosher-style New York, Chicago deli you've been looking for ever since you moved to the Valley. Scott's Generations. It's just like home. From the complete breakfast, lunch, and dinner menu to the family pictures on the wall. Carryouts? Of course. Catering? Yes. Stop by, say hi to your hosts Scott and Jean, and pick up a dozen bagels or bialys and get a half dozen free. Your favorite deli from back east is as close as Scott's Generations, 5539 North 7th Street at Missouri. For free delivery, call 277-5662.
You're listening to the Middle East Radio Forum on News Talk 960 The Patriot, KKNT. To join in the conversation, call in anytime at 602-508-0960. That's 602-508-0960. Now, back to your host, Attorney William J. Wolf.
Welcome back to today's edition of Middle East Radio Forum. My name is William Wolf. Again, the show is available to you every Sunday, noon to 1 o'clock here in Arizona, available worldwide on the internet on my website, middleeastradioforum.org. And don't forget, on the website, in the archive section, you can also access dozens of old shows. If you've missed one or you want to listen to one again, that's how you do it. Local call-in number is 602-508-0960, and toll-free is 1-888-960-9696. We do welcome your calls throughout the show. This is perhaps your only opportunity to ask questions about this Palestinian election and the Gaza withdrawal to two of the most knowledgeable people in the world on this issue. And I'm talking about David Meir Levi on the phone from the Bay Area of California, and in studio I have Devin Sper. And Devin, I want to go back to the question that you were answering before I had to interrupt you with the break about some are saying that Hamas will moderate in power. What is the end of your response, please?
As I say, unlike typical politicians, people for whom the ideology is key and not power in and of itself, normally do not moderate when they achieve power. In fact, they radicalize. I gave the example of Hitler, but we could give the example of Stalin, who did not moderate when he took power. He killed 40 million people. We have Mao Zedong, who carried out the Cultural Revolution after he took power. You have Nasser, who launched exactly the wars against Israel he promised to launch. You have the examples in the Arab world also of Saddam Hussein, who was certainly no moderate, of Khomeini, of the Taliban. You have Pol Pot, and you could go on and on. So the key is whether or not the ideology is key and these people really believe in something. And I think it's very clear that Hamas is of the latter type. Hamas are true believers. They're obviously willing to blow themselves up. The current candidate of Hamas for the current prime minister, Ismailia, lives in a refugee camp. He said yesterday that he has no intention of leaving the refugee camp. He's not going to live in a villa like Arafat and take bribes and become corrupt. His goal is the destruction of Israel, and power is subservient to that and not the other way around.
Okay, I'm going to ask my guests a question that kind of gets off subject just a little bit, but you just mentioned Nasser planned and promised wars against Israel, and he certainly did it. Now we have the situation that's really heating up with Iran and the atomic weapons and the missiles to deliver those weapons. We have Hamas, whose covenant is for the destruction of Israel and, of course, of killing Jews anywhere they find them. Do you believe that the Israeli people, number one, number two, the American government, number two, and then the American people believe that Hamas intends to do what they say they're going to do, and also the same with Iran? I'll ask David first.
I never know what goes on in somebody else's heart or mind. I'm not sure what goes on in my own sometimes, but I have to go by what they say, and there's no reason to doubt them. If they had the power, they would. And it looks exactly that way with both Iran and with Hamas. And based upon the statements that we've received from Hamas leaders, both immediately before and after the election, there's absolutely no reason to assume that what they're saying is, rhetoric, or just they get carried away with the eloquence of their language, which one person once told me. They must be taken seriously, and especially in the history of the Holocaust and in the fact that we've had Holocausts in other parts of the world with amazingly large numbers of people. This could be for real, and we have to do what we need to do, we meaning Israel in this case, in order to defend ourselves against that.
And, I see this as a culture of death that the Muslim world seems to have to a lot of extent. The government of Iran has said that it doesn't matter if they lose 50 million people, if they can get the destruction of Israel, it's worth it. And you have these people who are willing to put these bombs on and blow themselves up. The death of Israelis and Jews is certainly more important to them than their own lives. And I don't know how you deal with people like these other than killing them. Anyway, Devin, I'm going to let you comment.
Well, I would rephrase the question somewhat. I certainly agree with David that is their intention. But as to whether or not the Israelis and the United States are going to take it seriously, yes, they take it seriously, but the real question is, are they going to do anything about it? And that's where I'm afraid I don't have a positive answer. It's very clear that Iran has thumbed its nose at the entire world. They are reopening their nuclear facilities, breaking the UN locks on their facilities, and the United States, the Europeans, Israel intend to do nothing about it, at least as far as the Iranians can see. And this is another lesson not lost on Hamas.
Perhaps we're having an argument of semantics here because, in my opinion, taking it seriously means taking action. I don't think you're taking something seriously if you don't take immediate and positive action. That's my opinion.
That's well put, and I strongly agree with it.
Okay, I want to go to a caller. Ed from Cave Creek. Go ahead. You're on the air.
Thank you, Bill. This question is directed at Devin and David. David, I love your idea of taking off the veil. Everyone has known what Hamas is and what they want to do. Finally, those who are called Palestinians have shown they want to join. That's exactly what they want. Add in Iran, and here's my question. What will it finally take for the people of Israel, not the Israeli Arabs, but the people of Israel, to take off their veil and show them the power of the Maccabee?
Okay, David, go ahead first, then I'll go to Devin.
Okay, well, I'd be inclined to rephrase that question also and say that what the caller is asking is, when will Israeli leadership and the primarily Israeli citizens of whatever religion who want Israel to continue to exist as a Jewish state start doing what any other nation in the world would do and what most nations have done when faced with existential threats by relentless enemies? And the answer to that question is either when the American government lets them, or when they are no longer so terribly and completely dependent upon the American government.
I don't think that Israel, has to get permission to survive. Perhaps some leaders feel that they do, but
I wish you were right.
Well, anyway, let's go to Devin.
I have to say I disagree with you, David, on that particular point. It's often believed, and there are many who say that this has to do with American pressure. I don't believe that. The entire peace process was created by Israel behind the Americans' back at Oslo at a time when it was illegal under American law to negotiate with the PLO. And we then dragged America and the rest of the world down that road. Israel is all set to do exactly the same thing with Hamas. President Bush made a very strong statement the other day, but the Israeli leadership is letting out mixed signals. They would tomorrow go down the same road again with Hamas. The chief of staff today made a statement that can only be characterized as delusional, saying that Hamas is now acting responsibly and that they would soon rein in terror. So the Israelis are mired in the same self-delusion. The problem is that they're going to drag everyone with them. However, I also agree with you, David, that Hamas is not going to allow it. And our hope is, and I agree with what both of you said, that there is hope in this. The hope is that because Hamas is not going to play this double game, they're going to force the Israelis to do what they needed to do 10 years ago, to recognize that they're not in a peace process, that they're in a war, to fight it and win it. Which, by the way, if they do, they will achieve a swift and a certain victory.
Okay, we're going to be getting more into this, but we are coming up on break again. Rather than ask another question now, let's go to the break. My name is William Wolf. You're listening to Middle East Radio Forum. The program is available to you every Sunday at noon Arizona time here on 960 The Patriot, and available worldwide on the Internet, as well as my old shows in the archives, all on my website, MiddleEastRadioForum.org. That's MiddleEastRadioForum.org. We do take calls throughout the show. The toll-free number, 1-888-960-9696. I'd like to remind you the show is also brought to you by Bethel Congregation, 1118 West Glendale in Phoenix, where a warm Sabbath experience is available to you every Saturday morning at 9 o'clock. Make Bethel your spiritual home away from home. And I always ask my listeners to please help me continue to bring the show to you. I hope you notice I always have wonderful guests, knowledgeable about very current topics, and I want to keep bringing the show to you. And the way you help me doing that is by patronizing my advertisers. And when you use their services, please tell them that you heard about them on this program. That will keep the bills being paid, allow me to continue to bring the show to you. I enjoy doing it, but I need your help to do that also. All right, you hear the music coming on. We'll be back after the break with David Meir Levi on the phone from California, and Devin Sper, author of The Future of Israel, which is an absolute must-read, along with Front Page Magazine that David Meir Levi contributes to. Read all of that, and you'll become a lot more knowledgeable, including listening to the show. Please stay with us. We'll be right back after the break.
Estate planning. It's something you know in the back of your mind that you ought to be doing, but you just haven't gotten around to it yet, right? Well, maybe it's because you aren't quite sure what estate planning is really all about, or maybe you don't know where to turn for advice. Well, here's a suggestion. Make a call to Carmen Cercone of the Householder Group. His specialty is trust planning with an emphasis on estate preservation and tax reduction, and he's been doing it successfully in the Valley for over 24 years. Let Carmen Cercone put that kind of experience to work for you. Right now, he's offering a complimentary estate and retirement analysis just for calling him at 480-556-9600. That's 480-556-9600. For greater convenience, Mr. Cercone's offices at 7th Street in Missouri and Phoenix, and at 87th and Via Ventura at the 101 in Scottsdale. Call for your complimentary appointment first thing tomorrow at 480-556-9600. Mr. Cercone is a registered representative offering securities through Sun America Securities, a member NASD, SIPC, and a wholly owned subsidiary broker-dealer of American International Group, Incorporated.
This is William J. Wolf to tell you about my favorite Italian restaurant. Sometimes you just want to relax and be indulged. The attentive staff at Christo's Restaurant is available to meet your fine dining needs for dinner Monday through Saturday until 10 p.m. and Monday through Friday for lunch. Let them pamper you with mouth-watering Northern Italian continental cuisine. Christo specializes in fresh seafood, veal, chicken, ossobuco, and pasta dishes that will have you looking forward to your next visit. Enjoy your favorite beverage, a wonderful lunch or dinner, and an unforgettable dessert. And they do the dishes. They are the official Italian restaurant of Middle East Radio Forum. I love their eggplant parmesan and their fish dishes. I'm sure you will have your favorites too. That's Christo's Restaurant, serving great food for 18 years at 6327 North 7th Street. Call them for reservations at 602-264-1784. That's Christo's Restaurant, 602-264-1784. Tell them William Wolf sent you there. Haifa Restaurant is a new Glad Kosher restaurant open on the southwest corner of 12th Street and Northern. Seating for 240. It will be your choice for any large party or just for a kosher lunch or dinner. Wonderful soups, salads, falafel, and meat dishes for every taste. Their hours are Monday through Thursday, noon to 10 p.m., Saturday, 7 p.m. to 1 a.m., Sunday, noon to 11 p.m. Their telephone, 602-944-9600. Tell them I sent you there, and you get a free piece of Russian cake. Middle Eastern Bakery and Deli is your one-stop shop for all your Middle Eastern cooking needs. Exotic spices, olive oil, imported foods, olives, cheese, and a sit-down restaurant. Try it once and you will develop a good habit of returning often. That's Middle Eastern Bakery and Deli on the west side of 16th Street, just south of Osborne at 3052 North 16th Street. Or call them at 602-277-4927. That's 277-4927.
You're listening to the Middle East Radio Forum on News Talk 960, The Patriot, KKNT. To join in the conversation, call in anytime at 602-508-0960. That's 602-508-0960. Now, back to your host, Attorney William J. Wolf.
Welcome back to today's edition of Middle East Radio Forum. Again, the show is available to you every Sunday, noon to 1 o'clock. I have on the telephone one of my experts, David, Meir, Levi, and in studio I have Devin, Sper, and I'm going to go right to the calls. I've got a full board of calls, so I'm going to ask the listener to please tell me who you want to talk to and be very succinct with your question. Just be very brief, and let's get through all these calls. First, Jock from Scottsdale. Go ahead. Who would you like to speak to?
Question for both guests. The State Department and the Bush administration has threatened to withdraw financial support if Hamas doesn't disarm. Assuming they do, or what do you think the U.S. would do if they don't? Secondly, if they do, who would fill in to provide financial funding if the U.S. does pull out?
All right, good question. Devin, go ahead first, and then I'll go to David.
Iran has already pledged to fund Hamas and does fund Hamas. Hamas has never gotten any funds from the United States, and the Iranians and the oil-rich Arabs will more than make up for anything the United States cuts off.
I think a perfect way to get money is say you want to kill Jews, and Iran will give you whatever you want. David, it's actually it's too true to be funny. But anyway, David, go ahead, please.
Okay. Well, first of all, I think what you said is correct, and it could solve Israel's financial problems. But apropos of this question, I think it's extremely interesting that President Carter was quoted in the New York Times yesterday as saying publicly that since it is against American policy to support a clearly terrorist, genocidal, racist regime, America should find ways to circumvent that law and support Hamas, for example, by giving money to the UN, which could then redirect that money to Hamas. That's President Carter talking.
Well, I wish he'd move into the 8th floor of the United Nations. Anyway, Devin, quickly, go ahead.
I'm afraid, though, that we can't criticize anything the United States might do because the Israelis have not made a decision on whether or not they're going to transfer, for example, customs revenues to Hamas or not. And if the Israelis won't take a clear position, we can't expect the Europeans and Americans to be more Catholic than the Pope.
Okay, very good. All right, thanks for your call, Jock. Quickly, let's go to David calling from Skokie. Who would you like to speak to?
To both guests, please.
All right, go ahead, quickly, please.
Actually, following up on what Devin just said, my concern is I'm wondering, since the Israeli political situation is unsettled with Sharon out of the picture and with there being an election season right now, if this is in some ways bad timing because it might be one of the reasons why Israel's having a hard time taking a strong stand one way or the other. I'm just wondering if you feel that may be taking place right now, making it more difficult for the Israelis to respond in a more effective way. And also, in what way might the Hamas election actually even affect the upcoming election?
Okay, Devin, go ahead, then I'll go to David.
No, I don't think essentially that this has anything to do with Israel's current crisis in leadership. I think if Sharon were in power, he would be just as visionless as is Olmert. I don't see any vision coming from Peretz on the left or Netanyahu on the right. Netanyahu said that we've created Hamastan. That's absolutely true, but the problem is that even he is offering no alternative vision. And without an alternative vision, Israel has no future.
Okay, David, go ahead, please.
Okay, well, the first thing I want to point out is that there's, just in the same way that there is absolutely never a good time for a flat tire, so too there is never a good time for Hamas to be elected or for your prime minister to have an aneurysm. So certainly the bad timing here is correct. This makes things more difficult. But in one respect, what's happening now with the Israeli leadership is indeed a function of the coming elections, because the various leaders are trying to figure out what they should say about this in order to enhance their possibilities for success in March. And the tragedy is, and here I have to agree with Devin, they don't know. They are not clear, and nobody is willing to stand up and say, we will not support them, and that's it.
I think Ames has to put up a candidate. That's the Center for Advanced Middle East Studies that Devin's senior fellow of. All right, anyway, I need to quickly go to another question, otherwise we're not going to get through these. Judy calling from Scottsdale, who would you like to speak to? I can't hear you, Judy. Judy, turn off the stereo, please, or the radio. I think... All right, I guess she's... Devin, you want to finish up on a comment on the last one?
I forgot what I was going to say.
Okay, that's fine. David, was there anything else that you'd like to say before we go to break?
Well, the only thing I want to point out right now, apropos of Devin's earlier comment, is that Olmert did come out this morning with a very, very strong statement, which was very happy to see. He said, what is clear is that Israel will not work with Hamas unless it disarms, unless it stops its incitement, unless it stops its own terrorism, and if it is the head of the government, it has to stop other terrorist groups as well.
Okay, Devin, quickly. Good. All right, Devin, quickly. We're coming up on break.
It sounds good. The problem is that they said the same thing about Arafat and yet ignored his terrorism for 10 years, and there's no reason to believe that they've changed their delusionary views on Hamas either.
Okay, we are coming up on the break, so I'll tell you, you're listening to Middle East Radio Forum here on News Talk 960 The Patriot. My name is William Wolf. The show is available to you every Sunday at noon here in Arizona. Adjust your time for listening out of the state here because the show is available on the internet. Middle East Radio Forum, MiddleEastRadioForum.org is my website. You can also catch old shows on the archive section. Please spread the word about the show to anybody around the world who may be interested in the subject. And also, I ask you to please use the services of my advertisers and tell them that you're there because of hearing them advertise on this show. That will keep the show coming to you in the future. Please stay with us. We'll be right back after the break with David Meir Levi and also Devin Sper.
If you're looking for a complete quality computer service company that is knowledgeable, reliable, professional, and fast, you need Ultimate Computer Concepts of Phoenix. We offer service and support for all of your computer needs, and we've been serving the Valley for over 10 years, specializing in computer systems and software, internet service, security, networking, and website hosting and development. Call 602-230-4747 or visit us online at uccinc.net.
As an attorney, I get to know who the experts are in every related field. That's how I came to know Dr. Roger Baker. Dr. Baker is a board-certified chiropractic physician who handles accident injuries. His modern office provides every form of up-to-date healing and pain-relieving therapy, including acupuncture for pain relief and digestion aid. Dr. Baker stays on top of what's new so that his patients have the latest advances in care. Take it from me, you're in the right hands with Dr. Roger Baker. That's Dr. Roger Baker, 602-249-4508. Jewish News of Greater Phoenix is your source for timely news and information about the Jewish community in the Valley and around the world. Our family-owned and operated weekly newspaper has been serving Valley readers for 57 years. To subscribe to Jewish News, call 602-870-9470 or visit jewishaz.com. That number again is 602-870-9470 or jewishaz.com.
Buying or selling a home? Let Mary Beth Smith make your life easier. She's been a realtor for 18 years and is a certified residential specialist with Realty Executives. Let her show you what her personal service can do for you. Mary Beth has lived in North Phoenix for 30 years but works throughout the Phoenix metro area. Give her a call at 602-434-2900 or visit azqualityhomes.com. That's Mary Beth Smith. Let her expertise work for you. Call her today at 602-434-2900.
Whenever I pass the corner of 7th Street in Maryland, it's hard to resist making a quick stop at the Maryland Deli and Mini Mart. If I need a cup of coffee, it's always fresh. If I'm in the mood for iced tea, they serve the best China Mist. If I'm hungry, they make the freshest deli sandwiches around with boar's head meats, of course. For a quick treat, they've got Ben & Jerry's ice cream. Need gas? Use your Shell card or their ATM. Open 7 days a week from 5 to 11. The place is always clean and attractive. Seems like there are mini marts on every corner, but there's only one Maryland Deli and Mini Mart, corner of 7th Street in Maryland.
This is William Wolf to tell you about Scottsdale Kosher Market, wonderful kosher groceries, foods from Israel, fresh meats, and a complete sit-down restaurant. They were named the best kosher market by the Arizona Republic. They have a complete Judaica store. Scottsdale Kosher Market on the southeast corner of Shea and Scottsdale Road. They are open Monday through Thursday, 9 to 7, Friday, 8 to 2, Sunday from 9 to 5. Or you can call them at 480-315-8333.
You're listening to the Middle East Radio Forum on News Talk 960, The Patriot, KKNT. To join in the conversation, call in anytime at 602-508-0960. That's 602-508-0960. Now, back to your host, Attorney William J. Wolf.
Welcome back to the final segment of today's Middle East Radio Forum, but don't despair, we will be back again next Sunday. As always, noon to 1 o'clock here on News Talk 960 The Patriot. Please check out my website, MiddleEastRadioForum.org. You can listen to the show anywhere in the world, and you can listen to old shows on the archives. Today I have in studio Devin Sper and on the telephone David Meir Levi. They're both experts regarding the Middle East. And before I get back to them, do have another call I want to take. Hank from Phoenix, who do you want to talk to? And please be brief.
This is directed to each of the individuals. The following question is, as an American Jew, what action can I take regarding the recent Palestinian vote electing Hamas to control the Palestinian Authority?
All right, thanks for that question. Let's go to David first.
Okay. Well, first, you can support financially those institutions that you're aware of, or others that I can make you aware of, which are supporting Israel actively and in a very high-profile manner throughout the world, in America, in your own country. That's number one. Number two, you can become involved in institutions like that, such as Stand For Us in Los Angeles, or the Jewish Voice for Israel in San Francisco. And there's a bunch of groups like that which are trying to be high-profile about these problems and influence Congress and influence the president. Same with AIPAC. Now, not every Jewish institution is doing that, so you have to be careful. And you can feel free to email me if you want guidance on that. But
okay, what's your email address, David?
David_Meir Levi, one word, no hyphens, no caps, spelled M as in Mary, EIRLEV as in Victor I, Meir Levi, at hotmail.com.
Okay, great. Devin, do you want to respond to Hank's question?
I think David gave a good response. I'd just like to add one more institution that you might consider is the Center for Advanced Middle East Studies, which is CAMES.WS on the web. I'm a member of it. Bill is a member of it, and David Meir Levi may soon be a member of it. And we exist precisely to get across these ideas to leadership which is right now in disarray and directionless, and to offer them an alternative path.
And I also add, please spread the word about this program. This program is available anywhere in the world. The subject is too important not to spread around. Let people know about it. Again, thanks for your call, Hank. Let's quickly go to Richard calling from Scottsdale. Who would you like to speak to?
Well, I just listened to the general panel, and basically feel a very strong bond with Israel since I've been doing reading since 9/11 and so on, and feel very confident that it's the alliance between America and Israel that may even save this world. I was wondering if you could comment on something you alluded to before as to what is Israel's preparation at the moment in the event that Hamas and or the Palestinian territory starts some military action, just to give me some confidence that you guys are going to help save us.
Okay.
And by the way, I'm not Jewish, I'm Christian, and I love you guys.
Okay, thanks very much for your call, Richard. Okay, let's go to Devin first on this. What are Hamas's plans as far as you know?
Hamas, the leader of Hamas, Khaled Mashal, stated yesterday in Damascus that the Palestinians will now form an army. A week ago, he met with the president of Iran in Damascus, the head of Syria, and the head of Islamic Jihad, and they are formulating a plan for war. What they're going to do is step up the war. It's not going to be occasional bombings or suicide bombings, but it's going to be a full-scale attack from the north with Hezbollah, with Syrian and Iranian backing, all across the northern border, the border of the West Bank, and Gaza. And they're going to make Israel an unlivable place. The hope is that this is going to force Israel to cease deluding herself that she's in a peace process, to realize that she's in a war, and to fight it. And I say again that Israel could win this war very swiftly if she only chooses to fight it.
Well, it's a question of will then, and based upon the last few years, I would say Israel does not have the proper will. Anyway, David, what's your response to the call from Richard?
Well, everything that Devin said is correct. I would only add 2 points which are indirect but very important. One is that actually several months ago, Shaul Mofaz got up in front of the whole cabinet and said that Israel did have the Iran situation handled. Now, he didn't say how, and even if I knew, I couldn't say on the phone, but that's a very important statement. Now, of course, there's a bluff to try and scare Iran. I don't know. But that seems to indicate that they are on top of it, and although they are not displaying will, neither are they lying back and saying, well, we can't do anything, they'll just bomb us. With regard to Hamas and the current preparations, which Devin described quite accurately as preparations for what they hope will be the last final jihad against the Jews of Israel, there's no better place for the worst criminals in the world than the biggest jail in the world, which is what the Gaza Strip is. And if, through whatever means, whether what I suggest, namely American support, or what Devin suggests, Israel does decide to launch a serious and massive campaign against Hamas, the Gaza Strip is a great place to have them all because they're right there in a cage and ready to be attacked.
Okay, Devin, quickly, please.
You know, we got ourselves into this situation because we are engaged in wishful thinking for many years rather than facing reality. So I would not go the route of Shaul Mofaz and hints about what they might do. Meanwhile, every day, even now, Islamic Jihad is raining missiles on Israeli cities like Ashkelon, and the Israelis are doing exactly nothing about it. And a country that refuses to protect its own citizens from a nothing like Islamic Jihad is certainly not going to take on Iran. It's unfortunate, but that's true.
All right, let's quickly go to Judy. Judy, you're back from Scottsdale. Go ahead, you're on the air. Who would you like to speak to?
Both of your guests.
All right, quickly, please.
My question is, how do you educate American Jews? Because clearly our rabbinate isn't educated. They stand at pulpits and they're so uneducated as to speaking to American Jews on Israel. So how do you go about doing that?
Okay, we touched upon this before. CAMES is a great way. Devin mentioned the CAMES website. Devin, you want to give that again?
Yes, we founded the Center for Advanced Middle East Studies here in Phoenix for precisely this reason. We felt that Jewish leadership on political questions was naive, had been wrong since the Holocaust, and they've been wrong on the peace process. And we felt that there was a need for people who are writers and authors and speakers and felt differently to get together and espouse our views. And we were each of us doing this on our own, and we're now doing it together. The three of us on this show are members or soon to be members. And I suggest you might, Judy, look at cames.ws on the web, and you'll get an idea of what we're doing.
And David, please tell people about Front Page Magazine. You're a prolific writer. Your articles are very insightful, very informational. How do people access Front Page Magazine?
Go to www.frontpagemag, M-A-G, it's all one word, .com. Also, apropos of what Devin said, I want to point out that Front Page Magazine and I are currently putting together a new program which exactly addresses the issue that Judy raised, which is educating Jewish leaders, rabbis, professors, congregational and community leaders into these issues. So support for Front Page Magazine, just as support for CAMES, is an excellent way to help those of us who are in a position to do so get out there and engage those who seem to be quite literally in a fog about what's really going on.
All right, thanks for your call, Judy. Quickly, let's go to Ken calling from Phoenix. Ken, you're on the air. Who would you like to speak to?
Actually, both of you. I've been involved in AIPAC for a lot of years. I was a former board member, and I actually have spent a lot of time trying to get the rabbis in the city involved in at least to the AIPAC events. So when they're speaking, they actually, are speaking correctly about Israel and are saying the right things. But I just want to comment. I heard a piece of one of y'all had said that what is Israel going to do now, and I liked all your comments, but I didn't understand the clarification. It just seems like everybody's always waiting for what Israel's going to do. There was obviously, a pressure from the entire world about, giving up. They pulled out, Gaza and West Bank, and they're doing all this stuff. Israel didn't push themselves into doing these things. The world did. Now it's Israel's problem that Hamas is in. This is what the whole world wanted. And they wanted them to be free. They wanted a state. Now that the world convinced Israel to do this, now it's Israel's problem to figure out what to do with Hamas. I actually find, I don't want the world really involved in telling Israel what to do, but the world really put, all the pressure, put these guys in charge and paved the way for Hamas to win. So who's going to, how can Israel sort this out now? It's really their response.
All right, that's a good question, but I think that if Israel relies on the world to save them, they're all dead, just like in the late 30s and early 40s. Devin, do you have a quick response?
Yes, I don't agree that it was the world that put Israel in this position. I believe it was Israel that first recognized the PLO, that insisted on the legitimizing it, and that it is Israel which will do the same with Hamas, given the ability to do so. Luckily, they're not going to get that chance this time.
All right, David, quickly, do you have a response to Ken?
Yes, I would say that in somewhat disagreement with Devin, the world had a large part to play in Israel's choices, but what's happening now, although it could turn out to be not the same direction, Mofaz got up just this morning and announced that there's no immunity for Hamas leaders from targeted killings until they disarm and recognize Israel's right to exist. Now, this is a very important statement because what Hamas had said just yesterday is, Israel has to stop the targeted killings, let our prisoners go, and go back to the 67 lines in order for us to talk to them.
Well, at least they're not talking about the 1947 partition lines.
Right. Thank God we have a little progress here after 50 years.
Okay, I need to quickly go to this question because I don't want to miss getting this question on the air today. We have this failed peace process. I can't believe anybody would say it's not a failed peace process. What is the alternative to this failed peace process? I'm going to ask both, but let's start with Devin.
Well, to be very brief, there is an alternative. First of all, this is an opportunity, and Israel should take it. This is an opportunity for Israel to immediately declare her border, something she could have done years ago. But there is no one in the world today that could possibly challenge Israel's right to unilaterally declare a border, since there is obviously no partner on the other side. A month from now, 2 months from now, that won't be true. They will have succeeded to legitimize Hamas. But right now, Israel could declare her border, and that's the first step. And then the second thing she could do is rebuild her deterrence by returning to a policy that was once very successful of massive and immediate retaliation for any attack on her citizens. I'm not talking about targeted killings. I'm not talking about tit for tat. I'm talking about massive and immediate retaliation. And in the long run, what Israel and the Jewish people have to do is relearn the accumulation and exercise of power with the long-range goal of bringing Israel to the status of a major power. And only in this is our salvation.
And Devin, I'm going to promote your book because you do talk about this in your book. It's called The Future of Israel, and it's available certainly at Scottsdale Kosher Market and other places. Where else can people get it, Devin?
They can get it on the web at www.thefutureofisrael.net or on Amazon.com.
Okay, thank you. David, do you have a response to my question about the alternative to this failed peace process? And please be brief.
Sure. But Devin said, but with a slight twist, just as Israel successfully did a preemptive strike in the wee morning hours of June the 5th, 1967, which changed the course of Middle Eastern history and world history for that matter, and at the time received the full support of the international community except for Russia and, of course, the Arab countries, so too now would it make sense to do a major preemptive strike and wipe out the entire Hamas leadership, most of which is trapped in Gaza. And that would literally change the course of modern Middle East history.
Don't you think they have to include Iran in that? It doesn't do much good to take care of the problem in Gaza if atomic bombs are going to be raining on Tel Aviv and Jerusalem.
One step at a time.
Okay, fair enough. Let's quickly go to a caller. David from Phoenix, go ahead. Who would you like to speak to?
Yes, I'd like to address my comments to any one of your presenters. I would like to know why, in God's name, we don't give an ultimatum to both Iran and Iraq. We have the capability of destroying either country. Why can't we just go in there, give them an ultimatum, evacuate the people that do not want to be annihilated, give them a time period, and just do the action, and that would solve, I think, the entire situation.
Okay, thank you.
Instead of letting our boys die over there.
Okay, I don't think Iraq's in the equation now, but I understand what you're saying about Iran. Quickly, Devin, do you have a response to David?
Yes, in regard to Iran, I think that the spirit of your question is correct, which is that it is up to Israel vis-a-vis the Palestinians, and it is up to the United States via Iran and the rest of the Middle East not to try to appease this enemy, but to do what is in our interest to do. When your enemy has his knife at your throat, that is not the time to negotiate. That is the time to remove the knife from your throat and defend yourself. And this is the point we're at.
Okay, David, do you have a response to David here in Phoenix?
Yeah, sure. I would just quote from page 444 and 445 of Colin Powell's autobiography, An American Story, in which he summarizes his philosophy of warfare very succinctly. He says, hit him with everything you got, hit him as hard as you can, you'll end up with far fewer casualties at the end of the day. That is exactly what America should do in Iraq and in Iran, and that's what Israel should do in Gaza and the West Bank.
Okay, and if anybody's interested in checking out Ezekiel 38, that's Ezekiel 38. I think it has some relevance, especially to the situation with Iran. You're going to see something in there that's kind of startling. So I would recommend everybody take a look at that. All right, I'd like to thank both Devin Sper, author of The Future of Israel, and David Meir Levi, a prolific writer with Front Page Magazine, for being our guests again on the show. I'm obviously going to have both of you back again. You're terrific guests, and I appreciate your being here very much. Next week, my official historian, Dr. Steve Carroll, returns to discuss the aftermath of the 1973 Yom Kippur War, shuttle diplomacy and disengagement, 1973 to 1975. Dr. Carroll is an incredibly knowledgeable historian about these issues. He's always great. He's my most frequent guest on the show, and I encourage everybody to continue to listen to the show, especially Dr. Steve Carroll's presentation as he continues to go through the history of Israel from the very beginning, and now we're up to next week, 1973 to 1975. My name is William Wolf. The show is available to you every Sunday at noon in Arizona. Please check out that website, MiddleEastRadioForum.org. Spread the word about the show, and we'll look forward to having you on the show as a caller with any questions or comments again next week. Thanks again.
For information